My husband posted, "Join us with your wine," so I took him serious.
Here we go.
Cheers.
Cheers. Hey, thanks so much for being on. I might be fiddling with the, we're trying to go live on Facebook, and for some reason it's saying you need to restart streaming, but whatever, we're gonna chat with you all. So let's get started.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Bonnie's here. She says they got put the beds to bed. Put the beds to bed. Put the kids to bed. So, yeah, welcome everyone. We're so glad you're here. Thank you for taking precious time out of your busy schedules to be here with us. But Mr. Wiegert, Sam and I, Sam, like which circle do we share? Which circle is, what's your name and which circle? But Sam and I have been wanting to, we've been wanting to develop something as a couple, probably ever since we got together, but really we feel called to share our mission and with more people and impact people's lives. And so coming together to share our challenges is just one way we feel like we can share who we are as a couple, and maybe what we've been through maybe will benefit other couples, other husband and wives.
Yeah, thanks. So we've been really big on this this distinction recently. One of our mentors, is big on this idea of documenting and not creating. And so his philosophy is like, one of the best ways that you can support other people's journey is not to be out there like giving advice and obviously we've been married for 6 months. Like we don't have a ton of advice in that. We don't have the track record necessarily to give all of the advice. However, he's big on documenting. And so the theory is part of us just bringing people into this conversation is that we're documenting our story. And that story, it's the same reason I journal, is like one day I want to be able to give it to my kids and say, hey, this is me and this was my challenges. This isn't me just telling you advice. This is me saying, here's what I struggled with. And just that reality is something that we're really called to. So this is like our first little foray online is of, hey, let's document. And maybe for you, you could think of, okay, what are the lessons you're learning now, and how cool would it be to pass those on to people that come after you, so to speak. But one of the other reasons we're doing this is because my dad, who's on this call, super excited to have my dad on this call, and we can't, hey, Mr. Ogden, good to see you. We can't actually like hear you all if you talk. So if you want to talk to us, like shoot a little chat to us in the chat window and we'll see your comments and stuff.
Near the end, when we're done sharing, we'll open up the forum for any questions or any feedback.
Comments,
yeah, anything that that you related to, that stuck out
100%.
to you, or something that you're going through in your relationship. So
yeah. So last weekend, not last. Dr. Wiegert, did you want to add something to that?
Oh, yes. I just want to welcome everybody as well this evening. And I'm obviously very proud of my son, Sam, and his bride, Rachel. I just am blessed to have their hearts to share and to encourage and to build others up. And I think that's the purpose of what we're doing. And that's the purpose of what Uplevel University is all about. And that's the purpose, as I put in a Facebook post not too long ago, that's where I want to spend the rest of my life, helping other people and building others up, and maybe helping them prevent the mistakes that we've made, Mary Lou and I, and helping them forge ahead and take life to the next level. And I think that's what Mr. Sam and Miss Rachel are wanting to do in this, and I'm just honored to be a part. Thank you.
100%.
thank you.
Dr. Wiegert, we've learned so much from you in your relationship with my mom and the 37 years now, or 35 plus years?
Oh, we just celebrated 40, sir. You weren't able to make it 40 years, going on 41.
And Mr. Bain says cheers to that. So cheers to 40 years. This idea that Rachel and I have talked about a lot. So you know what I was going to share is we have this new venture, and this new venture is called Uplevel University. And really our vision behind it is this idea of helping people become black belts. Dr. Weir, I'm going to mute you. Helping people become black belts in every area of their life. And if you really study what a black belt is or what it was, a black belt wasn't just about kicks and punches. Like being a master at martial arts isn't just about kicks and punches or elbows and knees. You know, being a black belt has always really been mastery over yourself. And so as I've trained in martial arts for, 15 years now, obviously I have a certain amount of proficiency in kicking and punching and throwing knees and throwing elbows. But there's this idea of becoming a black belt in your life, becoming a black belt in your relationships. And so Rachel and I have done a lot of goal setting recently and have just kind of been thinking like, hey, what do we want our life or our empire, if you will, to look like in 10, 15, 20, 30 years? And for us, we're really inspired by this idea of 1%, making a 1% difference in the world. And it seems so small, but when you actually take the number of people that are in the world and you take 1% of them, that's 74 million people. And so our mission is really to support and to help 74 million people become black belts in their lives. Like maybe they won't even be the best at kicking and punching, but people that are dedicated to this idea of mastery over yourself, mastery in every category of life, if you will. And so for us, that's health. That's a big one. One that Rachel has really mastered and keeps us on track for. Wealth is a big one. Handling our finances in a way where we're setting ourselves up for success. So this is kind of why we're even having this talk in the first place, is because we've really, and then obviously relationships. Like, what does it take to be a black belt in your relationships? And that's something that Rachel and I have talked a lot about and are so committed to. And so this idea of a whole life black belt, I'm a part of a group, and they call themselves the Whole Life Millionaires. It's like, hey, we're not just a millionaire in our finances. We want to be a millionaire in every area of life. So we've kind of taken that and applied that to life, our what we're doing, which is really helping people become black belts in every area of their life. Why else are we here?
I would just say, kind of going into the mission, I feel, we feel like we want to bring people into that mission. Like this just isn't, we've felt in our relationship isn't just about us. And we also feel that bringing people on board is how that mission will be served and how it will outlast even Sam and myself.
100%.
So really trying to sharing that will hopefully be an invitation for you, your family, and for those in our circle to move that mission forward. And as Sam said, it's a big number, 74 million lives. It's not just 74 million statistic, but it's real lives, real change happening. And we feel ever so more committed to that mission now. And the idea is bringing people into obviously the martial arts, but also the life and personal development side of it. And those two blending together is the perfect marriage, we believe. So that's why.
Cool. Love it.
Leads us into.
We've been studying something that's kind of cool, and this will lead into, so what we really want to talk about are like the 3 challenges that we've had in our relationship up to this point in our relationship, from dating to now, and just kind of like some ideas and some thoughts we've had and some ways that we've found to overcome those, and hope maybe you'll be able to throw some other ideas at us. We had a friend, one of my mentors, he said, hey, maybe you should start the webinar or the video. He's like, maybe you should start it by talking about the 3 things that are going great and then talk about the challenges. And I said, good idea. Let's do that. But then I responded back. I said, but what if the challenges like are what's going great? And he said, okay, I need to be on this webinar. And so hopefully we'll be able to flesh that out a little bit more for you all, as far as like how we see and how we look at challenges has been really helpful. But there's one idea We did. Mr. Bain says you should start arguing about it. I said, we did. We argued a lot about what our challenges were. Like, no, that's not a challenge. That's a challenge. And we'll get to it in a moment, but we adopted this belief super early on that challenges and arguing is probably one of the best things that could happen in our relationship. And so we haven't, a lot of couples will tell us, like, we'll ask couples, new couples, older couples, like how they're doing. And they'll say, like, we never fight. It's the best relationship ever. And we're like, like, maybe that's good for their relationship, like no judgment, but at least for us, that tension that really leads to a lot of passion in our relationship. And also we just have seen it, we see it as a good thing. Like we haven't judged it as a bad thing, but we'll talk about that in a bit. So we wanted to lead into this with a little story. And it's something that I've studied for a while. And it's something that will kind of lead into like our first challenge. You up for that? Yeah. You up for a story? I hallucinate that I hear lots of yeses. I hallucinate. So Mr. Bain is on it with the chat. So the story goes that, hundreds of years ago, a family was actually seen as an empire. Like it was actually seen as a nation. And so even to the point where if a family started to get too strong, other families or other nations, actual nations, would get a little bit concerned, like, hey, they're amassing, too much power, too much wealth. Like we need to watch out. They could take us over, right? So the family unit, so to speak, was really this empire. And so we've always been really intrigued by that. And so for us, we adopted that as like our mindset on our family, that we are empire builders. And I think, for us, an empire looks like, financially really like building that area where we want it to be. It looks like having the passion and the love in our relationship that we really want to have. For us, the empire looks like 74 million, like impacting 74 million people's lives. Like that's the empire. But I think that an empire could be, I've got 3 kids and I want to raise them really well. We were chatting about this, right? An empire.
A family of any size.
So that was the first thing like we wanted to share. That's really, this will lead into our challenge, but something that's really helped us with this challenge has been coming together and recognizing, hey baby, yes, I've got my own ideas. Yes, I've got my own thoughts. Yes, you trigger me and make me upset in these certain ways. But to come back to this like belief or this idea that we're co-empire builders. So we call each other that. I'll be like, hey, how's my co-empire builder doing today, or whatever that is, and so for us, I'll just lead into our challenge unless you want to say something about that.
I would say it really takes the small arguments, and like we even stopped ourselves today, and it's like, why are we arguing about this? We're putting energy over here, which is taking away from then the ability to build on what we feel like we should be building. And our first challenge, we need to see eye to eye. Maybe we don't agree, but we have understanding and mutual understanding. And so when you have a mission, or you feel like you're building something other than just doing the dishes and running errands and cooking dinner, like you are building. And when you take ownership of that, your whole mentality changes. And so it's no longer, what can I do for you? What can you do for me? But you come to the relationship, you come to your significant other or your children, and you say, what can I do for you? How can I give? How can I serve you? Because that is greater. We are serving something greater than ourselves, like this nation or this empire. And so Sam and I have really adopted that belief. And I think it just minutes the things that are no longer important, the things that, the bickering, the disagreements, or who's going to do that, who's going to do this. It just needs to get done. Whether you do it or I do it, we don't need credit. It just needs to happen. And of course there's, love and appreciation. But when things just need to happen, that's where we're at with that. So.
Good comment, Mr. H. Thanks. He said pause when we take turns talking because it drowns. The mic has to adjust for a second. Dr. Wiegert said, if arguing is part of your dynamic and passion, please explain how to argue productively and safely. Yeah, the best advice. So before I got married, before we haven't figured it totally out, but before I got married, I had a goal to like interview at least 15 couples that had been married over 10 years who had relationships that I really respected. And so I took this one, it was an Indian couple that were training at our martial arts school, and I just loved them to death. And they always seemed like they had fun together, and they were still playful, and they'd been married for like 24 years. And so I pulled them aside one day after class, and we need to get to our challenges in a moment so we don't keep chatting about it. But we pulled them aside one day after their class, and I said, hey, I don't know if you know this or not, but I'm getting married in like 6 months. And they said, oh, congratulations. And I said, but I really admire your relationship. I'm very observant, and I pick up how you two communicate with each other a lot, and the playfulness and the fun. And you know, I know they both are very high up in Bank of America, and so they have a lot of, you know, there's a lot of stress there, and there's a lot of things happening in the world. I know that. And I said, so like, just give me your best tip. And they looked at each other and they smiled. And the mom, I don't want to say her name, but she burst out laughing. And she goes, we always fight, but when we fight, you have to fight naked. And I laughed and they laughed. And they said, but seriously, if you can take, fighting and one of the things we've learned is when we fight, we will express ourselves fully, but we will never harm each other. So we never hit each other, and we'll never talk down derogatory to each other. Those are like the only 2 rules. Pretty much everything else goes. Putting on sparring gear, that goes. But this couple said, but seriously, if you can find a way, Sam, to channel your differences and your like that energy, if you can find a way to channel that into passion, they said it's like, that's our secret. And I just said, oh, very interesting. I was a little embarrassed because these are 2, you know, people that I teach their family martial arts. So I went back and I really thought about that. And we've also adopted that philosophy. So always making sure that our differences point us towards more passion, but making sure that we're not harming each other and making sure that we're not talking down to each other. But let's talk about our first challenge. Can we do that? Yeah. So our huge first challenge in our relationship, 100% across the board, was getting on the same page. I remember, I want you to speak to this too, but I remember when we first started dating, you know, I told Rachel that I was looking for a homemaker. You know, my mom was just an amazing homemaker for her kids. And so I told Rachel, I said, look, I need somebody to do all the things that a homemaker would do. And I remember Rachel's being like, sorry, that's not me. I'm different than that. And I want to be a career woman, and I want to make a difference in the world. And I want to hire someone for that stuff was what she told me. And you had your own version of that. What was your version of that?
Has been blessed, like you said, with that model of homemaker, and it was homemaker as a mother and a wife, that the woman was a wife and at home, and I just had a different upbringing altogether, and I was taught to be independent and to be driven and to not rely on a man or anyone for that matter, and really set myself, be driven and be successful. So that's why we had conflict, is because we just saw it. I just saw my role very different coming into a marriage.
Yeah. How have we overcome that? Like, how have we gotten on the same page? Tell them about the triangle. That was good. You said that earlier today. Tell them about the triangle.
Yeah. So I think we have adopted this idea that separately, we are 2 individuals. And then as we work on ourselves individually, and we find alignment in our values, we will strive towards this one common goal, and eventually we'll meet in the middle. So again, we kind of felt like we were, he was on one page and I was on another page, and we were going in opposite directions. Eventually, right? A little bit here, a little bit there. We didn't really see eye to eye. We didn't really see how this relationship can serve and how we can come together. But as we learned that our differences were actually strengths, and that as we develop who we are, that symmetry, that alignment will bring us to that same goal. And that was really what I think for both of us kept bringing us back together, was that alignment of our values that was very strong.
Yeah, so if you think about like a triangle, you know, we grew up in a very Christian home. And so they said, you know, if you put God at the top and both of you are at either end of this triangle, as long as you stay focused on God, you're going to grow closer together automatically, right? Because you're kind of focused on the same thing. And we were chatting this morning about how we feel like similar goals and a similar mission and a similar passion in life brings you together simply by focusing on the same thing. And one of my mentors told me very early on, he said, Sam, I want you to know that you are a salesman. Mm-hmm. And he goes, in your relationship, you will also be a salesman. I'm like, really? Like, what does that mean exactly? He says, part of your job is to make sure that you are pitching and communicating constantly about the vision. Constantly, hey baby, here's where we're going. Hey baby, and it doesn't have to be the guy or the girl. I mean, I don't think it matters. I think whoever is offering that direction, Rachel does it for me sometimes. She offers that direction. We had a rental property the other day, and she walked in, and I had a budget for what I wanted to spend on the furnishings. And she had to come and pitch me like, hey, it's going to cost a little bit more. Like, you're going to have to spend this money, but this is going to be beautiful when it's done. The people who rent it, we rent individual rooms, so we furnish it for them. So, you know, the people who rent it, they're going to be so enamored with it. It's going to be great. You're going to make more money on the back end because it's going to stay full, right? So now she's talking my language. I'm like, okay, how much do you need to furnish this place, right? And so she goes in, but she had to pitch me. She had to sell me, if you will, on that vision. And so we don't think of the word sales as like a bad thing. We just use that so you can relate to something. But like this idea that you're constantly pitching, hey, here's where we're going. And so no, we're not going to go take that trip right now. No, we're not going to go buy that thing right now. Maybe we could, but we're going to sacrifice right now for this. Mm-hmm. You know, whatever it is. And so for us, like through the years that we've dated and been married, like we picked this goal. And the goal is, hey, we want to help 74 million people. That's 1% of the world's population become a leader, leaders in their life, become black belts in their life. And we're going to do that through our brick and mortar stores. We're going to do that through this thing that we're launching called Uplevel University. And so that's been the central thing that we've been working up in the triangle. That's been so huge. Mm-hmm. For us to get on the same page. And so every time we get into an argument, or every time it's like, no, I want to spend that money that way, or no, I want to do this, it's all right. Let's step back. Where are we going? And what's the end goal for this? What's the end goal for this? I could keep talking, but I want to give you a chance.
Yeah, I would say that Sam is a very strong leader. Somebody asked a question, and I do think that if you have two strong people, as we are, he had to really sell me on the vision, because I was very strong-headed and determined. And so he had to really sell me over and over again. But also, I also can see now how my strengths can benefit, how my strengths can be used for the sake of this mission, right? And I remember before we got married, that I felt like if I stayed where I was at, single, and stayed on this track to be independent, that I could do a lot in my lifetime. But I really felt this prompting, and I really felt that if I married Sam, that I would do more in my lifetime as a partner with him than I would do solely on my own, in my own strength and in my own capabilities, that if I joined forces with Sam and the mission, for the sake of the mission, that I would do and serve more in my lifetime. I would serve more people, and I would really grow, you know, into the woman that I knew I was capable of growing. So growing nation.
I like what you said earlier, that,
Yeah.
that any kind of family, like no matter
Yeah.
what level or kids or no kids, or it isn't, you're building a nation.
And, I think someone asked the question, Mr. Bain, if it was you, showing up. And I think it's like the next level. I think showing up is like the first thing, right? You show up in your relationship, you show up for your significant other, you show up for your kids. Showing up fully as who you are is one piece of it, but I think the next level is to say, we as a couple, there's a purpose and a reason for us to be together, and it's not just for us. It's for us, but it's not about us. There is something greater here than what we are called to do. And so I think showing up is the first level, and I think really identifying that you have something in front of you. You know, maybe it's your family, you know, is your family reach, or whatever that is for you, whatever you decide your mission statement is. Ours obviously is the 74 million, but whatever that is for you, I think it's the next level than just showing up. If that makes sense.
Matthew asked, do you think this thought of a woman, as you answer that one,
I
as an
answered
independent
that
person leads to major conflicts early on for most? Yeah, I mean, you were very independent.
I still am who I am.
To
I
the
just
point-
get to show up.
To the point to where I'd be like, baby, let's walk down this street when we were first dating. No, we're gonna walk down this street. You want me to tell this story? If I get kicked under the table, I guess that's not a story I'm supposed to tell. All right. Ow!
Let's keep going.
I think that somebody has to take hold of that direction. Do you think we talk about the vision of what role our partner would fulfill in our life as we envision it often enough? Do you think that role would change over time? Yeah, I think the role definitely changes. It's changed so many times, even in the short time that we've been married. The role has changed a lot.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think the vision wasn't so much about a role. The vision for us was more about what are we accomplishing together. The good book says, without a vision, people perish. I think that's really what we're trying to say on this one. And that is, hey, what's the vision for your relationship? And I can't tell you how many people tell me, because we get to deal with people all day. That's the beautiful part about like what we get to do. We get to study people. We get to see hundreds of them come through our schools. We get to interact with a lot. And everybody, you know, I want to be happy. I want to be happy, right? I just want to be comfortable. I want to be happy. I ask people, how much money do you want to make? Oh, I don't need to make a lot of money. I just need to be comfortable. But then you realize, in order to be comfortable, you got to make a lot of money. And I feel the same way about relationships. And I know not everybody probably agrees with that, but you know, I feel the same way about relationships. Like, I want to be happy. I want to be comfortable. Great. You want to be comfortable? You want to be happy? Guess what? Grow. And guess what? Have a vision. That's how you be happy. That's in what we've studied in our idea. So we got a great quote there. So let's go into our second one. What's like our second greatest challenge in our relationship? So first was just like getting on the same page. And the way that we combated that was like, what's our long-term vision? Where do we fit into this? Like, it can't just be about every day. We're just interacting. We're just plugging along. For us, we had to have a vision. So maybe that's.
And then one thing,
go for it.
If I can just add, Matthew, I'm not sure if you were on the call when we first started, but the vision stays the same. It may shift or change. The roles may change. The vision, I mean, heck, we don't know, you know, we don't know what's going to happen, but for right now, this is the vision. And I was going to say, what was I going to say? On the tip of my tongue.
I don't know. The role is going to change. The role changes.
The role changes. I forget what I was going to say. I said it in the beginning.
All right. I'll come back to you.
Yeah, sorry. I lost it.
What's the second
This
one?
is our first video. Give us a little grace.
What's the second challenge? What was the second one?
Oh, so establishing our roles that fit our strengths. So kind of going into, Matthew, maybe what you were sharing, establishing our roles that fit our strengths.
For me, one of the biggest, I would say, for us, causes of frustration at the very beginning was we weren't doing what the other person, or she wasn't doing what I thought she should be doing. You know, I place a lot of value, this is just a lot of who I am, but I place a lot of value on results. So if someone isn't helping me get results, you know, in the way that I define them, then I'm just like, hey, I care more about the mission than you right now. I'm going forward. And I've had to dampen this a little bit, temper it a little bit. So for us, the challenge, if I had to define the challenge, like I wanted her. So once we established this idea that we were working towards a vision together, we were building this empire together, then I had to, I had to accept the fact that she wasn't going to produce results in the same way that I was going to produce results. So I'm going to tell a story. This one I can tell. So early on in our relationship, after we were married, I put Rachel in charge of the property management. I have a property management company, or it's really a real estate company that manages rental properties, but we own the rental properties as well. And so I put Rachel in charge of managing them. And like a good employer, I gave her a KPI. And that KPI was, how many vacancies do you have? And what's the bottom dollar? Like, how much are these rentals making? And so anything under 10% vacancy, I'm happy with. If we're like at a 5% vacancy, solid. 8% solid. 10% solid. 12%, we're having a chat. 15%, we're having a chat. So this relationship started, and so then we're managing like two different relationships. We're managing a business relationship, we're managing a lot of new relationships. So the vacancy was great for a little while. We were like at 5 to 6%. And then like it starts to go to like 10%. And then we're at like 15%. And I'm like, okay, soft talk first. That's probably best with my wife. Hey baby, how are things going? How are the leads going? What's your lead generation strategy? And I just start to get super frustrated, to the point to where one day I hear her take a call, like I'm in the car, and I just have a certain way sometimes I want things to be done. I believe strongly. And it was not a good like sales call. She was trying to sell this guy in a room, and I just was like, I love you. I'm finding someone else for this job. And for a good week and a half, that was and I was upset, and it didn't come across that nicely. That was way nicer than it came across. For me, it was like, you're not doing it correctly. You're not doing it, and I'm finding someone else. And literally within an hour, I had 5 applicants. I was just like there. And so we went through all the emotions around that. We really worked that out and had to communicate a lot around it. Mm-hmm. How does this relate to our challenge? I wanted her to produce a result the way I thought that she should produce a result. Mm-hmm. And it just wasn't her strength. And so tell us about your strength.
Really clean and really beautiful. I mean, they were spotless, like for what rental properties should be. And like the air filters were changed and the maintenance was like on point. So, but to Sam's point, he's about the results, and in rental property or any of you in real estate, the vacancy is all that, the occupancy rate is all that matters, the bottom line at the end of the day. So we just had to realize that may not have been probably the best role for me. That wasn't the best position for me.
So if I could share a little bit more. Yeah. I feel like after that, and you can speak to this, but I feel like after that you went in almost to a little bit of you really pulled away. There was a lot of tension. Mm-hmm. And once I saw the result that I was creating in my wife at this point from putting so much pressure on her, I just was like, this is not what our relationship is going to be about. And so I embarked on a strength finding mission. I said, my woman has strengths. And she would say her man has strengths, and how are we going to pull those out of each other? And so establishing that was a huge challenge, and it's been a challenge. and I don't think we're done with the challenge, quite frankly, because it still comes up for us. But it's been a journey of acknowledging, you know what, you're not strong at what I'm strong at, but guess what? Like, God wouldn't have put us together if we were both strong at the same things. And I need you on my team, because share with us your, like, some of the strengths we've uncovered. We've uncovered a lot of your strengths recently. I think that's really cool.
Sam is definitely like he is the income side of the business, and I have more strengths that are more feminine, more flow and beauty and aesthetics. Aesthetics is actually one of my drivers, you know, and a high value for me. And then also connector. I can easily connect with people, strangers, and just invite them to our home, and you know, have groups at our home, and just really this ability of hospitality. Some of you have been over our home, and some of you may come over our home, but just the ability to really,
it's like a 5-star
nurture.
It's like a 5-star experience if you come and stay at our house. Like, you get your name tag on the door, stuff I would never do. I'd be like, there's the sheets, I hope the bathroom's clean, and there's towels somewhere in the house, right? But Miss Rachel is like all out. You get the food. Love that.
It comes very natural to me, and that's how I knew it was a strength. So now I have the ability to utilize that strength and really expand upon that. Before, though, I felt like I was put in a place where I was not operating in my strengths, and it was very suffocating for me because it was not very natural. It felt very forced. However, I learned, we learned that we're different, and really to trade our expectations. And Sam had to really,
What she's about to say is huge.
Yeah.
Like, if you just take nothing away from this call, but what she's about to say, it will guarantee, forget relationships. This will change your life.
Yeah.
Huge.
So
Give it to him, baby. Give it to him.
he had to trade his expectations for appreciation, and recognizing that he didn't marry himself. He married me, a female, a completely different species. And I come with a whole set of differences, a whole set of different strengths and weaknesses. But when you trade your expectations for appreciation, you are able to see that person. You're able to see what they really bring to the table, and you're no longer judging or criticizing them. We have a beautiful relationship. I love our relationship, and it's very different than I imagined and what Sam imagined. But now that we're operating in our strengths, there's so much freedom, and there's so much acceptance and love and just flow for us, because we recognize that we are operating to our truest nature.
We thought about trade your expectations for appreciation. Legit chills.
Awesome.
Nice. Mr. H says you sound like a homemaker. True story, though. She is a really great homemaker. I just didn't think I was getting that, because she kept telling me, I'm not that, I'm not that. Another one of her strengths, straight up gangster negotiation. Straight up. She can negotiate 10 times better than I can. I mean, she's the first. We bought a new Tahoe the other day, and like, she's the first to be like, heck no, Sam, we're leaving. I'm like, okay, I guess we're not buying this car, we're leaving.
I was legitimately having a negotiation discussion with the salesperson. He wouldn't come down. And I was like, okay. And we just walked away and we left. I was like, watch, he'll call us back. But he never called us back.
So she's got some business skills though too. But hey, we're running out of time. Let's go through actually you led us right to the third challenge. And the third challenge was just that our challenge was absolutely that this relationship looks different than what we thought it would look like. Mm-hmm. And until we died, so to speak, to our original vision, mm-hmm. I would have never had the opportunity to realize, Mr. H, that she is actually a home. She does have amazing skills in that area, and I admire her and love her so much for those. And so we never would have gotten there, though. I mean, we broke up so many times, and I can remember a call I had with my mom where I was just like, Mom, she wants me to be more like spiritual and like pray more. And like Rachel was raised in a I don't know, you tell them about that. What were your expectations of me that you had to trade for appreciation. How does it look different for you now than what you wanted, what you thought you wanted?
So I'll tell the story that really short. Sam sent me during one of our breakups. Sam sent me to a UPW, which is a Tony Robbins seminar, and at that seminar, I got lots of takeaways, obviously, from the seminar about personal growth and just different areas. But on the relationship day, I realized Tony started talking about his mission and his company and philanthropy and just these numbers. He was spitting out all these numbers. And I really got to see what I believe Sam was trying to do within the martial arts community and within our community back home. I really got a taste and a glimpse, a small glimpse into what I felt like being a partner with this caliber of a man, with this vision, mission-oriented man really felt like, looked like, smelled like. And I remember coming home and just telling him I'm in. I think I wrote him a letter and had all these conversations that had to unfold after that. But I remember that was the crossing over for me, because I felt like I had been fighting my belief that I thought he should be more spiritual. He should be he should lead us. He shouldn't be all about this number, but really he was leading us, and I just needed to see a different angle. And so I'm thankful that I have that in him as a partner, and we get to be engulfed in this mission together now.
It looks different.
Looks very different
than what we first imagined. And I can only imagine that it will look different in the future than even what we imagine now. But we're open. And that's the lesson we took away, and we'll never forget it. We're open now. We're okay with it being different. We're okay with not holding that person to, Matthew, what you said earlier, like, are you going to hold them to that role forever? And like, no, it looks different. And I think we really retained that lesson. At least I hope we did, because I don't really want to learn it again. From my end, just kind of a funny side note, I had bought her this ticket while we were still together. And I had bought her a VIP ticket, and they're not cheap. The VIP ticket was like $900. And then I don't know if it was we broke up. I'm not sure who initiated the breakup, but I just remember thinking like, I should have bought her a general admissions ticket. That girl.
Now.
Just funny in the back of my head. I was like, I should have given the VIP to one of my siblings, made her sit general admission. There's like 10,000 people in this room, so general admission is like you're in the back, and VIP is like you're right at the front. But it did. It was totally 100%. So just being open to the fact that it looked different. I think for me, it kind of goes back to I got something that I didn't even know that I needed, that I wanted. And I'll just share this one thing, and I think we'll kind of wrap up with this, but I studied a form of counseling for a while. It was called Imago therapy. And these two counselors who had been counseling couples for many, many, many years, it was a husband-wife couple, and they adopted they created this philosophy based on the hundreds and even the thousands of couples that they had counseled. And the therapy basically states this. I mean, here's kind of the premise of it. And you can agree or disagree with it, but it really spoke to me. I was in the car and I was driving. I was listening to their audiobook. I can't remember the name of the audiobook. I'll have to find it. But basically it states this. They said, everybody thinks, attraction is a very conscious thing. Like, oh, she's beautiful. I want to date her. I want to marry her. Like, everybody thinks that's a very conscious process. And they said, from our experience counseling thousands of couples, it is an incredibly unconscious process. And you are unconsciously looking for somebody who will heal wounds from your past. You are unconsciously looking for someone that will challenge you. You are unconsciously looking for someone that will push you and force you to take a look at yourself at a new level. In other words, this relationship is designed to get on your nerves at some level. And I remember I was driving in the car. I was driving from Charlotte to Virginia, my parents' house. We live in Virginia, Lynchburg, Virginia, and I was on 29, for those of you that have driven that many times probably. And I remember thinking, I paused the audiobook and I said, I'm going to test this theory. And I started to go through all the relationships that I had had in my past. And I started to go through all the relationships like of friends that I knew about. And I could kind of see, like it made sense to me. It just made sense to me. I said, you know, that makes sense. You're getting a second chance to heal things in yourself. You're getting a second chance to heal something in yourself that maybe isn't complete yet. And relationships are like this beautiful yet tenacious and passionate way to do that. And I've shared that with Rachel a lot, like, hey, I don't believe this is always supposed to be a walk in the park. You know, this, you're designed to trigger me. You're designed, like I picked you to push my buttons so that I could become a better version of myself. And I believe that with all my heart. And so the moment that I knew Rachel was the one was the moment we got in a big fight and broke up. And I went back and said, okay, I'm going to see where I can get better from this. And we talked the next week as broken up. And she came back and said, hey, I think I could have done this better. And I said, what? Like, you're not blaming me? You're not yelling? Like, I think I could have done this better. And like those two things, boom. And it still to this day has transpired in our relationship. One of the ways that we've kind of coped with it looking different has just been, this is a path. It's a journey for us to become the best version of ourselves. And that's what being a black belt in your relationship and your life is all about. It's a commitment to mastery. It's a commitment to never giving up. It's a self-mastery. It's a commitment to being the best version of yourself. It's a commitment to growth. And that's what we want to try to share with people, that that's the secret. You know, everybody wants to be comfortable. Nobody wants to grow. Everybody wants to be comfortable and happy where they are. But then you realize in order to be comfortable and happy, you got to grow. I think that's what we really wanted to share at the end of the day. So hopefully that speaks to somebody.
Get comfortable being uncomfortable. I heard that the other day.
Yeah. All right, cool.
Any questions?
Close.
Questions in closing?
Thanks so much for being on our call, everybody.
Thanks for being here.
We were going to go live. It didn't work. I bought like a $500 subscription per year to go live, but it's not working. That's beautiful. Mr. Baines says, interesting take on the notion that your other completes you. Yeah, in a very different way than you think. I love that, Mr. Bain. That's beautiful. We want to give, we want to give a couple of thoughts. Great stuff. We see some comments coming in. Thank you all for being on. We are doing a weekend that's about becoming a black belt in life. We're doing an initial weekend, and we want you to attend this weekend. The next stage of our life is going to be dedicated to building something, being partnered with my dad, called Up-Level University, and it is martial arts. It's self-defense. But it's a lot more than that. We're going to be focusing on relationships, emotional fitness, what that looks like, lasting wealth, and what that takes to create that. And that's taught partly by me, but it's taught by some other people as well that really have an amazing track record in that area. Real self-defense, authentic relationships. And so the weekend is May 31st. If anybody's interested in coming to that, we wanted to offer a $400 coupon so that you could attend. And so if you're interested, what was that?
Growing something for the partner.
Yeah.
Reach out to us.
Yeah, please. Like if you're interested in that and you just want more information, or you're interested in getting that coupon, if you would just shoot us a message or maybe type in the chat box, or shoot us a text, or however we got a hold of us. Get a hold of us in some way, Facebook or something, just to say, hey, I'm in, or I want to find out more, and we'll send you some information on it. That'd be really cool. Or upleveluniversity@gmail.com. That's cool too. Thank you, Dr. Wiegert. Dr. Wiegert, do you want to say anything? I want to give,
Closing remarks.
yeah, and actually, maybe not even closing remarks. Like maybe you have something to share with the group. Actually, I know you do.
Well, listen, I was with you too when Rachel was heavily involved in property management. It was a snowy winter day, and you were taking a walk with your mother and me. And I just told myself, as you guys were working through that issue, that this is not going to work in the long run. So I'm really thankful for the fact that that you decided to run with your respective strengths. I also really want to pick up on the idea that that subconsciously we're looking for a person to help us become a better version of ourselves. Because when Mary Lou and I met well over 40 years ago, that was the last thing on my conscious mind. But what was part of that reality over the last 40 years has been a relationship with a woman who has truly challenged me in many, many areas. And I'd like to think brought out a better version of myself, extracted a better version of myself than I could ever have been single or ever have been married to someone else. And so that concept is just right on. And I want to thank you for your sharing your insights and your stories and being vulnerable with the rest of us this evening. Mary Lou and I are in a process right now. I call it a shareholders meeting. After 40 years, we celebrated with some of our children in Lynchburg, Virginia, by reciting our vows. Mary Lou had actually saved the documents from 40 years ago when we eloped, and we had the children share in a little marriage ceremony, a rededication ceremony. But as I was thinking about that, I was realizing that we are not the same people who got married 40 years ago, and neither are you two or any of us really in relationship. Those relationships are evolving, and they continue to grow, and hopefully as we let iron sharpen iron, we become different people and better people as a result. And so we're in the process right now of answering the questions of what we want to affirm when we feel most alive. Over the next 5 years, we would like to, and finish that sentence, and I would prefer not to, and to deepen our relationship, we intend to. And so we're working through what that means. And you've challenged me this evening that overarching that whole thing would be just a reassessment of our family's mission. And every couple, whether they're married or not, if they're in a serious relationship, every individual should have a mission statement, and that should be constantly reconsidered. Am I on point? Is this where my strengths are? How am I doing with this? And how is the God of the universe directing my path by way of successes, failures, or challenges? So I just want to thank you two for a really fascinating look into your lives, for being vulnerable and transparent. Also, just reinforce the idea that Uplevel University, we're going to be going deep on some of these areas that you've talked about tonight, Sam and Rachel, and look forward to having other people on May 31st at our Epic Weekend event. We've had in the past, some very, very amazing experiences, and people have taken their lives to a different level, all in the context of martial arts. And so we're going to keep doing that. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Yeah, thanks for that, Dr. Wiegert. It's an honor to be your son, and yeah, thanks so much for just all your support and mentorship over the years, for sure. Yeah, I think Uplevel University, Dr. Wiegert, you and I have talked about this. We want it to be our tribe. Like, that's our tribe, that's our community, that's our family. That's what we want to build. We're really committed to that. So hopefully people will consider, that wasn't the sole purpose of this call. It was to add value and share our story. But if that sounds like something that you're interested in, and we'd love to hear from you and send you more information. So upleveluniversity@gmail.com. Send Dr. Wiegert an email, or just shoot us a message, and we'll get you that coupon, and we'll get you some more information.
Mm-hmm.
We love you all.
Love you guys.
Thank you so much for being on. Have a good night.